Let's go ahead and tap in with these Eagles, right? Obviously, took the L in the Super Bowl. Jalen Hurts gets the bag in the offseason. They've tinkered with the running backs. You could argue the running back room might be better than what it was last year, at least on paper, in terms of who they brought in, DeAndre Swift, Rashad Penny. Walk me through here in terms of what you've seen from this Philadelphia offseason. What have you liked? What haven't you liked? How do you think they go into this position? You said earlier about you're not sure about the coordinators. Is there anything else besides that that makes you give some worry about the Eagles running it back out the NFC?
So here's the deal, right? Coming into the year last year, I was the guy, I'm going to be honest with you, that was like, you know what? I really don't know what Jalen Hurts is. They still got that first-round draft pick. Maybe they decide to use that and draft a quarterback this upcoming year. And then by the time September was over, I was like, oh, shit. You know what I'm saying? Son is the real deal. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then you look at A.J. Brown, when you put him with a dude that can average 18, 19, 20 yards a catch, that's elite wide receiver. That's TO type numbers. So you got to like that. And then, obviously, the way they was able to scheme the offense with that six-back attack by making Hurts a player that the defense had to account for, that right there was problematic. Now, here's the deal. Do defensive coordinators, catch on to Jalen Hurts and that six-back attack this year? Now, the running backs, here's the deal. The running back is really Hurts. Rashad Penny runs like a madman, but he might as well play flag football. DeAndre Swift, a tremendous disappointment coming out the University of Georgia. So, but you really don't need big running backs. Like, I know they're supposed to be intrigued with Taylor right now. And if Taylor would be perfect with Anthony Richardson and Shane Steichen running that six-back offense there. That's the way it should be. Yeah. Now, if you get him in there, I think obviously you bring Taylor, you have to pay him. So you'll use him in that running back position more. But they may have the best wide receiver duo in the league. The quarterback is great. The head coach has proven that he is not a liability. So when you look at the offensive side of the football, they're good in the trenches as well with that defensive line. That offensive line. But Brown, Devonta Smith, Jalen Hurts is how that team works right there. And like I said, I worry about the loss of coordinators, and I would worry about the rest of the coaches catching up to what Philadelphia is trying to do. But if that is not the case, then they're going to be a Final Four team in the NFC.
For sure. Look, I think, this offense should be a juggernaut, right? Jalen Hurts, as you said, he's probably the actual RB1 in that offense. You have Dallas Goedert, who was banged up. He's a guy that, arguably certainly top 10, but could even be a top 5 tight end in this league when he's right. And then this offensive line is just nothing but mashes up this line. You're talking about at least from the tackles and obviously at center, but this line is dominant. I don't see any fallback.
Jason Kelsey's a Hall of Famer. Lane Johnson's a guy who's an all-pro type player.
For sure.
So, the offensive line is, they draft very well. They know how to draft. They draft very well. They kind of take what the board gives to them. You know what I mean? Now, the running back situation, like you said, it's not dynamic. But when you have Hurts, he is the dynamic runner. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. See, what I like about Hurts is, right, he does have weapons in Brown and Smith. But I think if Brown and Smith wasn't there, listen, when you make $50 million a year, you are the weapon.
Right.
I don't want to hear about he don't got no weapons. You make $50 million, you the weapon.
Right.
There you go.
Right.
And then, so that's how I look at that offense, solid. Like I said, does the rest of the league catch on to it? That's all we have to see.
For sure. And I think, having one of the better offensive lines, when we look into the transition to the defense, this defensive line, now look, they can't stop the run, or at least last year they couldn't stop the run. But in terms of just having a bunch of dudes being able to go, eight deep pause and having this rotation of, bringing back Fletcher Cox when it looked like that wasn't going to happen, bringing, Jordan Davis, obviously, and then I think potentially the steal of the first round, being able to slide down and sit there at 9 and get Jalen Carter. I think the interior of this line should be a special one. However, the fact that this team, with this relatively the same D-line last year, couldn't stop the run, that's a little troubling to me. And I wonder if the Philadelphia defense takes a step back this year. Because if you couldn't stop the run last year with Cox and Jordan Davis, even though Jalen Carter's being integrated here, I don't know if he's going to get enough snaps to really make that much of an impact, because you can't give him snaps over Cox. Maybe you rotate him with Davis. But how do you think they can improve the rush defense that was towards the bottom in damn near every category imaginable?
And then they're going to miss Hargrave. Listen, a three technique, that dynamic D tackle, that three technique, that's what they're expecting Carter to be. Now, for the most part, I don't think NFL evaluators make a lot of mistakes. And you've seen the Philadelphia Eagles do a good job. But Jalen Carter in the college football playoff games last year, he was terrible. He has a little Jadeveon Clowney to him where he shows up every now and then. Like, his motor is not always on 100, and that's probably the reason why he sat there on the board. And then obviously he has some off-the-field things too, longer than people think. So, listen, you got to get a three technique that can get in there, that can get in the paint, and that can knock down the running back and eat up some blocks for those dynamic rushers that they have. Now, can Carter be that three technique? I think so, but I think Cox maybe a little bit past his time. Pause. But I look at Jalen Carter. Like I said, everybody said, "Oh, they got Jalen Carter too." Well, he could have been there for them for a reason.
That's fair. And certainly looking at the linebacking core, Dean is going to be able to step in there and become the guy in the middle. He's going to have the green dot. He's going to be the one getting all the defensive calls. So Nakobe Dean, who we really didn't see that much of, now gets to be the guy here in the middle. I'm a little worried about that as well. Like they took some losses in the offseason here for a defense that was in the Super Bowl and was an opportunistic defense, was a defense that was really adept at getting off the field on third down. But I'm a little concerned about some of the losses they've taken here. And I know they can keep drafting Georgia dudes, and there's nothing wrong with that on paper. But is there any concern with having such a lack of dynamic linebacking crew? Because Nakobe Dean looks the part. He has the talent, but can he execute, especially being the guy that's going to be in the middle, getting all the defensive calls?
They're decent, and then Nolan Smith is a player. He was available for them to draft because he stayed hurt. Reddick has defensive player of the year type talent and upside. He can really get after the quarterback. When you look at those linebackers, now Dean can give you a little bit in pass coverage. Obviously, that's very important for linebackers, the way that running backs utilize out the backfield. But it's not one of the strengths of their defense, their linebacker bunch. Really, Hargrave, that three technique that can dominate the middle, that makes you a championship team. It really does. You look at Chris Jones with the Kansas City Chiefs. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So when you can dominate, when you see no quarterback, today's quarterback, they can get away from edge rushers. But when you can get in the paint and disrupt them in the middle, that makes it very uncomfortable. That's how the Giants was able to get 2 wins over Tom Brady, 2 fluke wins over Tom Brady.
Facts.
Sorry, Giant fans.
they know it. Wins. Deep down, they know it. They happy they got them, but they know they had no business winning them shits.
Oh my God, Victor Cruz jumping over
Manningham with on the fucking sideline. Like, come on, dog.
Manningham catching the ball on your helmet. People don't remember in 2007 they was getting ready to run Tom Coughlin and Eli Manning out of New York.
All of them was out of there.
Run.
Yep,
they was done in 2007, but it is what it is. They call me a hater for bringing that up.
Hey, look, I love it, though, because we definitely have some Giants fans in the chat. I think finishing off this defense, I think the secondary, obviously what was in flux, they definitely have lost some pieces here. Reed Blankenship being the starter at safety, I'm definitely concerned about that. So, again, this Eagles defense, they were big in fantasy for me last year because they caused a lot of turnovers, caused a lot of havoc. But now, just in terms of stopping dudes, I'm just a little concerned about how this Eagles defense shapes out this year. I mean, the back four.
Through the Eagles' lean years or not Super Bowl years, or when the Eagles are not good, it's because their secondary is not good. And this has been a thing for the Philadelphia Eagles for a while. Now, Slay, we know what Slay is. He's one of the top players in his position at the league. But the rest of these dudes are average at best. You know what I'm saying?
Agreed.
To quote my
Agreed.
man Kevin, to quote my man Kevin Samuels, rest in
Yeah.
peace. Average at best. So James Bradbury, the average at best. But now, but let me but yeah, when their secondary is not strong, that's when their secondary historically has been one of the weaknesses of their defense. Now, what they can do, like I said, they can use that defensive line and those linebackers to create a pass rush to make it
Hmm.
easier for the secondary. But also, what you have with the Eagles, if you ever notice how Philadelphia plays, they kick your ass in the second quarter. That's Philadelphia's quarter. So
Right.
then, by the time they get out of halftime and they really sit Hurts in that running game on you, you're playing from behind all the time
Facts.
in the second half,
Facts.
and that leads to turnovers.
Agreed. So, all right, we'll move to over under with the Philadelphia Eagles. The line here is set at 11 and a half. That's a big number. They won 14 games last year, so we understand, but 11 and a half, again, with a strength of schedule that isn't the easiest here. A lot of talent, both sides of the ball, a lot of big names, both sides of the ball. But as you mentioned, could be shaky with new coordinators stepping in. Even money for the over. Favorite seems to be under on 11 and a half. What are you taking right now for the
I
Philadelphia
think
Eagles?
Philadelphia is an 11 win football team. I think 11-6 is probably the likely record for the Philadelphia Eagles. Jalen Hurts, if he can, Jalen Hurts is still, he can still miss a game or two. You know what I'm saying, because of his style of play. That NFC East is going to be tough. They're not going to run through that division. Teams like the Commanders and the Giants are going to be much more competitive this year. We'll get to them in a minute. But
Yeah.
listen, I respectfully take the under because I think
Okay.
they're an 11-win team. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Respectfully take the under. I don't want
Yeah.
Eagle fans blowing up my inbox.
Yeah, I think I have to agree with you there. I think 12 is a big number with that schedule. The division is competitive. It's just hard for me to see them getting 12. So
Yeah.
I'll roll with you and go slightly under. I think 11 is a good number for them. So let
Let me
us
give
know
you a
in the
little
chat.
fantasy thing. Okay, go ahead. Do your thing.
Yeah, just let me know in the chat. Over under 11 and a half for the Eagles. Now, Corey is very much on point when it comes to fantasy. I want y'all to check out his content, subscribe to his channel, all that good stuff. But go ahead, give us a fantasy outlook, for the Philadelphia Eagles.
None of those running backs are probably going to be dudes that you really going to struggle to put in your lineup. You're not really going to be able to trust them. Like I said, Swift has let people down. Penny's a good player, but like I said, he should play flag football. Kenneth Gainwell, if you're a zero RB guy, you want to build a team with running backs, with wide receivers, he could be a guy. But listen, if you're in a 12-team league with just you and your partners, you know, but if you are like a guy like me who put a little bit of money down and play a little high stakes fantasy football, if you are trying to hit one of those big tournaments, I think a AJ Brown, Jalen Hurts stack, even go all in. AJ Brown, you probably can't get all three in a draft, but if you want to go with AJ Brown in the first round and come back in even the second, or come back in the third at the latest and grab Jalen Hurts, that could be a strategy that can help you knock down one of those big best ball or high stake tournaments.